welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And as much as I want to, I like to say, like in the past, if there's any trolls among you, I advise, please leave this podcast right now.
Bye.
Okay, so now tonight we'll be reviewing that classic movie called House of Wax, which was released in 1953.
Yeah, this is a Vincent Price one. Actually, The House of Wax was a 1953 remake of, I think, Mystery of the Wax Museum, which was done in 1933. Now, they're both good movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to back, but I think the 1953 version is a lot better, and also was they brought 3D into it. Yeah, not a lot, but enough to make it interesting. Actually, if you get a nice, good, clean, digitalised print now, it is really sharp and clear. So, yeah, you can get a really good copy of it. So, and it almost feels 3D when it's in 2D. It's so clear.
Yeah, and there's plenty of opportunities where you see a lot of 3D movement.
Well, you sort of it feels 3D even though it's only 2D. But just the quality of the print was so good when they actually digitalised it. It looks like it's a brand new film almost. Well, that's a copy I've got anyway. It's really sharp images.
Yeah, so
it's really good.
Who directs it, writes it, and
blah, blah,
stars
blah.
in it?
All the above. Okay,
all the above.
Okay, produced by a gentleman by the name of Brian Foy, Foy. Directed by, now I think it's Andre Ditoth, Toth.
Possibly French, maybe.
Well, possibly, yeah. Screenplay was by a guy called Crane Wilbur, and it was based on a novel by the name of The Waxworks by Charles Belden. Now, interesting this, and I always loved dollars and cents. Back in those days, it cost about $1 million to make, I believe. It made $24 million at the box office. Now, 24 times the amount of the outlay, that's not a bad return on your money.
Agreed. Great investment.
But I don't know whether it's because it's a good movie or because Vincent Price in it or a combination of both.
Or even Billy Lugosi, who didn't star in it, helped promote it.
Did he?
Yes.
Well, things you learn, hey guys. I didn't know about Bela Lugosi helping to promote the movie. There you go. Then.
Well, it makes sense a little.
Now here we go. The cast. I did streamline it a little bit, but there are a few main roles here, so I'll go through them if you bear with me, folks. Okay, the main guy, obviously, Vincent Price plays Professor Henry Jarrod. He is a very talented sculptor. Who, I believe, started off maybe doing stonework and whatever. Got into wax because it was a lot easier and it was more lifelike.
Yeah, originally his character was called Ivan Igor, but
that's in the previous movie.
Yeah, but they said they wanted to avoid alienating Russia's viewers, so they changed the name to Henry Gerard instead.
And considering they probably made it an English movie.
Yeah, that's
or
what
American
I mean.
American movie. Whatever. Who cares?
Who cares?
They
just didn't want to alienate another audience
they wanted to
member.
give an anglicised name as well. Okay, can I move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was our main lead. Now, a lady by the name of Phyllis Kirk played Sue Allen, who is the female lead, who is sought after by Vincent Price because he wants to make her, you could say, a living statue in his waxworks.
Gross.
Now, the next lead, I'd say it had to be Frank Lovejoy, played Lieutenant Tom Brennan. Now, I believe Frank Lovejoy was in quite a few movies back in those days. He plays a good role, and he plays a good policeman. So he did well in this role.
True.
Now, Carolyn Jones. Yeah, Carolyn Jones played Kathy Gray. She was Sue's friend who got knocked off by Vincent Price in that first 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take, So she's already in the museum, and she looks really pretty.
And finally...
wait a minute, I'm not finally anything.
Okay, finally.
I'm going through the cast. Do you mind? Just once. You keep talking over me.
Shut up.
Paul Pichani, I think is the right name for this guy. He plays Scott Andrews. He's Sue's boyfriend.
Supposedly.
Well, in the role, and he's
He's the lead protagonist,
look,
if that's the word for it.
Look, okay, fine. Can I talk?
Go on.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, he's Scott Andrews. He's Sue's boyfriend, and he's sort of I suppose eye candy for the ladies. He's a good-looking fellow.
Well, Latins are cute.
Now, here we go. Roy Roberts. Now, I don't know too much about Roy Roberts, but he played Matthew Burke, Jared's business partner, who was a bit of a nasty piece at the beginning of the movie, and he had a fight with Vincent Price, Jared, and he tried to kill him in a fire, and Vincent Price, Jared, he survives the fire and goes out and kills him later on. And I think, is the first exhibit in the waxworks, was he not?
Yeah.
Or the first victim of the man. Now, here's one for you video files out there. Charles Bronson plays a role as a deaf mute working in the Wax Museum. He plays Igor. Yeah, talk about Igor. Right, Igor, a deaf mute. But he was actually credited as Charles Buczynski, Buchinsky,
Okay.
So obviously he's changed his name to Charles Bronson. Because obviously
That makes sense.
Yeah, it made it a bit easier. And now, here's one. Nedrick Young. He played the other assistant to Henry Jared. He played Leon Averill. Now, his name was uncredited, as his name was removed from the credits and miscellaneous many other movies, because he was blacklisted in 1953 for something or other. I would have to say, being blacklisted, he's either done something really, really nasty, or maybe a communist sympathiser, or something or other. Something really bad had to happen for him to be blacklisted.
Yeah, even though he's a good actor.
But he took his name. They took his names off the movies as well.
That's a shame.
So there's something wrong here. That maybe he did something really naughty. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Any more before we dive boredom?
Well, that's all the cast. Do you want to take over intro and telling the story now?
Yes, might as well.
I won't talk over you too much.
Yes.
No, I won't.
Are you done?
Not yet. I'm waiting for you to say something. Okay, no, carry on.
Anyway, so the story opens at the beginning, where Jared is just putting his final touches to his latest waxwork mannequin, and his colleague, his partner, I should say, mean guy, he comes along that night and tells him that this wax museum is not making ball buster money.
Yeah, he wants big bucks, and he wants to get out of it. He wants someone to buy him out.
So anyway, Henry tells him he's got a friend coming along tonight with a colleague of his who may kind of buy him out, hopefully.
Exactly.
So he heads off into the office while Jared talks turkey with his two associates, and of course it goes really well. They love all the mannequins, the waxworks figures. And of course the guy says, "Sure, I will be glad to buy him out, but I have to go away to Egypt in a couple of days because I'm reviewing a dig."
Well, you're not going. You're going to see a dig which might have money invested in.
Yeah, exactly. So
he was a rich guy.
So they took their leave, and then his colleague appears and tells him that the guy will be away for 3 or 4 months. And that will not be enough time for him to stick around.
And this guy, Jared's partner, said, "That's too long. I need the bucks now. I've got a good business investment I want to get into now, not in 3 months."
Yes, and so he comes up with an alternate B plan, if you call it.
Set fire to the place and do an insurance claim, what every honest person would do, yes.
Yes, so he starts setting the fire to places all over the place. Jared tries his absolute hardest to put out the fire, but they get into a fight, and soon enough, his associate gets out unscathed, but leaving Henry to be absorbed by the fire. Yeah. Or not, or so we think.
To be consumed. In the fiery inferno. That sounds good, doesn't it?
But fortunately, and then say, I don't know how many weeks or months he went through.
I don't know. See, I reckon it was a couple of years. Not a lot. Maybe say a year, maybe 18 months or something. I don't think it was weeks or
No,
something.
I don't think so either.
Because Vincent Price had to get better.
True,
He
true.
had scar tissues and stuff, and so I reckon.
So anyway, we see his colleague much later on, who is explaining to his girlfriend. Let me see, what's her name? Oh yeah, Catherine Gray, I think.
Kathy, yeah.
Yeah, Kathy, and explaining to her that he's got through the insurance claims, yada yada yada, got through making out that he was the only alive party member.
Well, he had to prove his partner had died. So you see, the insurance policy would have paid half shares to each, Professor Jared and Matthew Burke, as partners. Now, without Vincent Price's body, Professor Jared's body.
Jared, just say Jared, because I think people would be
Professor
confused.
Jared. You call me Henry and Jared, and his name's not Jared. It's you don't tell me.
Yeah, well, don't confuse the viewers.
It was supposed to be half-half share in the insurance money, but because there's no body, the claim process was protracted because they wanted a body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's got the big. He has the money. What's the word? Did he describe it that he has the money in his safe in somewhere?
Yeah, he got a check and he cashed it in, so he got all the ready cash in a strong box.
Yeah,
in
and
his
he
office.
plans to take Caffrey on a holiday.
Yeah, and
but she suggests that they go to Niagara Falls
and get a license on the way through. He said, "What do you mean? Make it all legal."
Married, all that
she's
stuff.
thinking about marriage, and he was thinking of a dirty weekend,
Yes.
Yeah.
So later on, we see him going back to his offices, I think.
His office,
And along the way, he runs into dear old Henry, who strangles him and kills him.
In his office, didn't run into anywhere on the way home. He's in his office.
Okay, he's in his office. He kills him, and then he makes it look like a suicide by hanging. So he hangs him in the elevator shaft.
Yeah, really good too. Looked really good.
Okay, and then I don't know.
Scared the cleaning lady, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it did scare anyone to death. That bit always scared me mostly too. Anyway, moving on. Catherine Gray is with her friend Sue, and they're both in their boarding house, right?
A boarding house, yeah.
Yeah, and she's getting ready to go out to dinner with an unknown mysterious man we don't know
An
about.
older man, she said.
Yes.
But old and I like, but he's very nice and very suave and sophisticated and yada yada yada. All
Meaning
the above.
she's long moved on from dear old the other guy she was dating, or
Yeah, the guy snuffed it.
yes, or they broke up. I don't know what.
He died.
Okay, he died, but
He was hanging in the
but
elevator shaft.
He may have broken up with her, saying
He didn't. He went to the office to check his things out and count his ill-gotten spoils there, and he got killed.
Yeah.
So she moved on a couple of weeks later and found somebody else.
Yeah. Anyway, Sue and Kathy are like best friends, like really good friends, and
Besties.
yeah, I gotta admit, in this scene where they're organizing her getting dressed, I gotta admit, I thought the
she was putting
corset
a
was.
corset on.
Yeah.
I don't know how the females wore those things in those
But
days.
it looked like, considering that back then they didn't have CGI, this corset was like tight on the
she
waist.
almost looked like a greyhound, and honestly,
Yeah, very tight and stuff. Sort of unbelievable. So anyway, she's heading off to her latest fling or date, and Kathy's going off to apply for a job at a
we
restaurant.
believe that her date was actually Vincent Price, Professor Jared, because someone drugged her drink. So when she came back, she fell asleep and.
Yeah.
Rehypnol, the date rape drug.
Yeah. So anyway, Sue goes on her way to apply for the job, but the job doesn't go so well.
Nah, poor Sue. She's a really nice sweetie pie.
Yeah, she's a nice girl, like girl next door type.
Good-looking girl next door though.
And she's not the kind like. She's not like Kathy in this.
Not very outward going. She's very conservative.
But then again, she's like the final girl in this movie.
She was actually. Yes, she was a final girl.
So, anyways, moving on. She heads back into the boarding house. The landlady gives her a severe, wet,
She says, "Money tonight, or you don't sleep here tonight."
Yes, exactly.
Whoops.
So, and so she heads up
I've
to.
been there, folks.
Yeah. So she heads up to her room or her Kathy's room. I think Kathy and Sue were having a shared accommodation.
They probably were. I think so.
And then she sees that Kathy is dead, and she sees that mysterious man that's no doubt Henry, the dead wax museum guy.
He looked pretty good for a dead guy.
Yeah, she screams. She climbs out of the window and runs through the street.
Run.
All the time, trying to escape the mentally deranged Henry. Anyway, she soon eventually arrives at her boyfriend's place. I'm not sure if the boyfriend's
Well,
right
the
word
guy
for it.
she knew.
A guy that she knew.
This really nice looking, hunky looking guy who she knew and she
Yeah,
what they
and
liked.
I think according to the story,
Yeah.
she is best friends with his mum.
No, her mother and his mother were friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
she goes to their house, raps on the door. Eventually, his mum was up and answered the door and allowed her in. And happens to, and dollars to donuts. Dear old Scott was there to comfort dear old Sue too.
Still wearing his suit, you know. So,
I noticed, but then again, men did wear suits.
What, in the middle of the night?
Yeah, maybe he was working late.
Oh, he might have been sleeping in his clothes, yeah.
Hey, he may have been working late. Bear in mind, even the landlady was still wearing her ordinary clothes.
Yeah, that's true. But his mother was into jammies.
Anyway,
Yeah.
he's a sort of an artist or an art student, I think.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, more of an art student. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, so they allow Sue to stay with them at their house, considering that
She was stressing out a tad.
Yes, she was already scared, and she even tried to prevent Scott from going out there because she was scared to lose him.
Yes.
I like to think
The
that.
naughty monster guy, who she called, didn't know who it was. Yes, he might kill him.
Yeah, who can blame her?
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. Then the next day or whatever, the guy who was the associate guy who was who met Henry at the beginning of the movie, comes to a building that's a wax
Yeah, that's
museum.
another reason why I said it had to be quite a few months later, because this guy's been to Egypt and he'd come back, so it's got to be at least 3 or 4 months.
So he got a note from someone, and he finds out that dear old Henry's alive and well, and confined to a wheelchair.
He supposedly couldn't walk very good anymore.
Yes, and his hands are completely scarred, deep.
Yeah, look really horrible and gnarly. You really
gross. Anyway, Henry explains that he's going to make a new wax museum which will have a mixture of horror and gore
and beauty
here and there.
Yeah.
Anyway, he wants he's already got a bit of capital, but he needs more. So
he needs someone to investigate and need a bit more dollars thrown into it.
Yeah, so he asks him to come on board and be a partner, like he did in the previously.
Before the other place burned down, he is interested in doing it.
So he says he'll think about it, and no doubt he would say yes.
And he did like his art. He did.
Yes, and he then sees another piece of artwork, which turns out to be his dead, business partner, and
so lifelike.
Yeah, and he says he hanged himself in the elevator shaft, even though they're still investigating what may have happened.
And they can't find his body anywhere because it got disappeared out of the morgue.
Yeah, both his body, Kathy's body, and a number of other bodies have gone missing from the morgue.
Yeah, so it's either it's him or necrophiliac lives in the area.
Yes. Quite right.
Okay. Won't go there.
Yeah. So later on, probably a couple of weeks later, they've already set up the wax museum, and it's all going full swing,
Yeah,
including
opening night. And they got this guy playing. Doing some what do you call it? I think when they're drumming up business, it's run like a barker. I think they call him barker. And he's using these paddle ball things where with the elastic on a rubber ball, hitting it like something like a table tennis bat. And this guy is really clever and funny. And I just wonder how many takes it took to get his roll down.
I'm amazed the camera didn't break.
No, there's no problem there. But everything was so well choreographed for him. I just wondering if it had 1 take or 10 takes. It was good, and he played the camera really good.
So everything goes full swing. Everyone likes the wax museum, except for a few people who got nauseous by the weird
young girl
gore.
who kept getting She must have a slightly nervous disposition, and she ended up fainting once or twice.
Yeah, I like that one.
She's so cute.
I like that, and I love the final faint in this one too.
Yeah.
But I won't go into it just yet. So
Okay.
anyway, Sue and Scott, they arrive there to check out the place, and Scott is offered a job to probably work there for a bit.
For Professor Jared, yes.
And meanwhile, Sue is finds the Joan of Arc figure that looks exactly like Kathy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously hair was different, wearing different clothes, obviously.
But she still has similar eyes and similar facial features.
Fingers, toes,
whatever.
Ears, whatever.
Yes. Anyway, but anyway, Henry notices this and he explains that. But maybe with luck, she'll be able to help him recreate his...
Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, see, his favourite his wax figure he likes is Marie Antoinette.
And he says, he's been looking for the right face, and he says, I really need to take it out of life, or something like that,
Yeah, and
only the original
and
you,
Sue
I need
looks,
you. Yeah.
And so Sue looks exactly like the mannequin.
Pretty damn close.
Close enough.
Yeah. I was wondering whether they did a mask of her to make the Marie Antoinette in the first place.
Probably.
Because it's very close. Yeah,
Well, it has to be. I mean, in order to make this movie believable.
Yeah.
So anyway, later the night, he goes to Sue's room and he tries to abduct her, but things go awry because she screams and she calls in her
the mother-in-law comes right. Oh no,
Scott's
not
mother.
Scott's mother. Yeah, comes
friend,
running in. What does the matter, dear? He was here. Oh,
and she cries and says it must be a dream, even though her eyes were wide awake. If she fainted, I could believe that.
Yeah.
And all that.
But you wake up from a dream screaming, dear.
True.
You don't go, I'll lay here and scream in my sleep, so I'll be asleep.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Later on, Scott tries to get her to, try to get her out more a little bit. And they go to a, what do they call it?
Well, it was a matinee. It was all like burlesque show, I think.
Yeah, burlesque.
And it had some
music hall. That's it, music hall.
Or whatever, yeah. Or a burlesque show which had the can dance there. And I must admit, when I was a young guy and I saw this movie when I was about 12 years old or whatever, I was wrapped into can dances.
Yes.
I'd never seen legs like that before in my life.
Yeah. So
anything else.
So while the show's going on, Sue is still thinking about the Kathy wax figure, and she remarks about how Kathy had a habit of wearing one earring in one ear.
Yeah, right ear or something.
Earlobe. Yes, meaning she didn't wear two earrings; she just wore one. So how can a wax figure have also the same have a slight?
Well, they have a hole in the ear but no earring.
Yeah.
Aha.
What does that tell you guys?
Yeah, but there's always an explanation for it. They taught the way out of it.
Yeah, eventually, Scott takes her to the police station to give her her statement. She did a statement earlier, but they said come back anytime to give us a little bit more information.
Because he was a bit shattered before. Yeah.
And after they she gave his statement, and they told her that they were already contacted by the Wax Museum to get photographs of Kathy.
Yeah, the dead body.
Yeah,
and have a look at the photographs, because the coroner and different people take photographs or whatever.
True.
Yeah, head shots and body shots, and for medical reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But after Sue and Scott leave, the inspectors they then realize, this sounds very significant. Let's go investigate this wax museum. So they go off and head off down there. They also when they're down there, they find a few other wax figures that they recognize.
Yeah.
A few lawyers. A few. I think one of them said that one of the guys that some of the people disappeared.
Yeah, one of the guys, the John Wilkes Booth one looked like somebody who had been killed recently and his body disappeared. But then when they made a comment about, there's a caveman over there, looks just like the new
police commissioner.
But he's still alive. Yeah, I think
Probably.
He's just slagging off at him.
Yeah, but I do think that they suspect that half those ones may have been either taken death masks of of the dead bodies without authorization or whatever,
No,
or something like that.
no, just thought they didn't think anything. They just thought, interesting.
Yeah.
And they didn't really know anything,
Yeah.
but they suspected there could be something,
Yeah.
but they didn't
They
know.
even suspect Henry's associates, not the mute one, but
Leon Averill.
they suspect him of it because they know him from prison.
He was in prison years ago.
Yes.
And he is a very talented artist guy. So
and they released him.
Released him on parole, then disappeared.
Yeah.
So and going by a different name too.
Yeah. So later that day, night, they get him and they start interrogating him, trying to get information from him.
And that was quite because he was an alcoholic and he really needed a drink, and they just waited for him to go through DTs, and then gave him a drink. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Scott is working hard at the wax museum, and Henry's giving him advice on making the wax figure look a little more creepier and stuff.
He's trying to do that, show someone's in a lot of pain. He's trying to deepen lines around the mouth and stuff, and make show more anguish and pain and stuff, and things like that. Yes,
agreed.
As a good tutor would.
Yes. Anyway, he sends Scott to get some flowers at a fake flower store or whatever.
Oh yeah, plastic flowers
for a display, and he then Scott drops the hint that Sue's coming around because it's her birthday, so they want to go off and celebrate. So Scott goes on his way, and Henry waits for Sue to arrive. He leaves the door open, and she heads inside, and the place is completely dark, and you can imagine how creepy that would feel. Weird eyes looking at you.
I tried to explain to Sarah the other night that I've been into a wax museum, and years ago, and some of the displays were dark in the area to give it atmos, and it did feel creepy because I was there by myself. I thought these things were actually going to move, and actually one was moving.
Really?
They had a body lying there, and it must have had an air sac in its chest, going in and out. That one's alive. No, it was just a scary one. And it did creep me out. This was a long time ago. I was a bit younger, well, a teenager, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, she even heads inside the studio in the back, and I gotta admit, the studio looks more creepier because it has things like limbs hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, bits and pieces and stuff.
And bits and pieces like eyes.
Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of stuff.
Yes, exactly. Things hanging on hooks, stuff like that. Not to creep your skin out when I think about it.
And subdued lighting. And the good part about colour photography, when they got the colour, they could actually go into lower light because the colour definition was in there, and you could actually do the shadows and stuff a lot easier, and the colours wouldn't blur into each other like a grayscale, and you could actually do it, and the atmos and the shadows was really creepy. It was really good. I like it. That's a good turning point. It went colour.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, so she is getting creeped out, and she then runs into the Joan of Arc statue again, and then she takes a more closer look, and she pulls back the fake hair to see some gold ringlets that are from Kathy's hair.
And she realised all at once that it wasn't a mannequin.
It was her dead friend. And all that stuff.
Bugger.
And dear old Henry appears and says, you know, all that stuff. And she says, it is Kathy. Under all that wax, it's her body. And Henry stands up.
And he's walking really good. He didn't need his wheelchair. He was lying.
And Sue tries to make a getaway, but she gets blocked by
Igor.
By Igor or whatever. And she tries to fight her way through Henry, but fortunately, she ends up breaking his fake face, turning out it's all made of wax.
That's one thing I think let the show down.
What's that?
Wax isn't flexible.
Oh, yeah.
She hit it and it broke, but when he had it on, he was talking, the whole lot was moving like a rubber mask.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the only thing that let the special effects down.
Yeah,
bypassing that, it's quite
after this movie, last night we were watching this movie, and along with the Mad Magician.
Yeah, and they used a rubber mask, and that was really good.
Yeah, it gave a good explanation of what prosthetics they used, or
Yeah, back in those days. But this goes back to the turn of the century. They wouldn't have had that sort of stuff probably. So it's all retro.
yeah. So
Yeah. Anyway, irrespective. Carry on.
irrespective. So moving on. So
Moving right along.
Henry's assistant finally cracks. I mean,
Leon Averill at the police station.
He then tells them that they took the dead bodies from the morgue and covered them with wax and made them into fake statues. And he says, "It's a morgue, I'm telling you. The whole wax museum is a morgue." All that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not in those terms, but
Well, we like that.
roughly. Anyway,
Whole slew of people down
he
there.
then tells them that if they don't hurry soon, Sue is going to be meeting the same fate.
She'll be joining them.
Yes. So the police, they rush out, they get their men together, and they head off down the road.
Yeah, a bit of the old Keystone Cop sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, leaving the assistant to drink his mind out.
Well, yeah,
because
he was an alcoholic. I won't use gross terms, but anyway, he was an alcoholic.
So anyway, meanwhile, Sue is already in the basement or whatever, and they're getting the machine revved up to get her body covered in wax.
She was naked, and you didn't see anything.
Yeah, you see a few.
You see
hands,
the top bit and the shoulders,
a bit of leg,
and the feet. And the bottom part of the legs. That's all you saw. So she could have had a one-piece bikini or a bathing suit on or something. You wouldn't have known. Very good photography, and everyone thought, "Oh, she's naked."
Yeah.
Wasn't really naked.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Scott he finds out that he then gets into a fight with the mute guy, and this is where an interesting scene with using the guillotine. There's a guillotine
They had a real guillotine in there.
Yes, a real one with a
sharp
heavy
blade, a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this is that Paul wanted to do this only once. He wanted to do the scene once, trying to get his head out of the way of the blade. And who can blame him?
Paul Pacherney said, I believe Sarah said he was hesitant about doing more than one take just in case there was an accident with the guillotine. So they did it in one take. The fight scene might have been 2 or 3 takes, but the part where his head was in the guillotine and they had to save him before it came down.
And maybe the scene where we viewed it for the first time in the grand opening too. Right? When you say that, Mike?
What's that?
When they did the grand opening of the wax museum, that they displayed the guillotine, and then it sliced through the head of the mannequin.
Yeah, but you can have several plastic heads, but you've only got one real head for Paul Pacherney, whatever his name is. So he didn't want to risk losing his head over a movie.
Yeah. Funny. So anyway, he fights the mute, and eventually the police arrive. They break in and save dear old Scott from getting his head taken off.
He didn't lose his head after all.
Eventually the mute is being up and handed, and the policemen then rush to the basement.
And they smash the doors down or whatever.
They fight as best they can against dear old Henry, and I guess Henry falls into the vat of boiling wax.
Yeah, splash.
And Sue was saved by the skin of her teeth by one of the inspectors. And
he saw what was going on, and he moved this table thing away from the wax just before it broke. And as a true gentleman would, he took his jacket off and put it over a naked body.
That's a relief.
Which we didn't see, damn.
It doesn't matter. So anyway, so we see them much later in the office discussing what's occurred and how and Scott jokes about how he every time he shaves he can still feel the raise of the guillotine blade against his throat.
And Sue Ellen thanked the inspector for the use of his coat.
Yeah, and the other guy, I think this sergeant, kind of made a fake sneeze.
Achoo! You look cold.
Yeah. I thought that was fun. I think it was
a little bit of levity and comedy.
I think that was a bit funny, that bit.
I keep saying, Sarah, to make a good movie, sometimes you need elements of everything.
Yeah.
This had a bit of horror, drama, bit of suspense, a little bit of love interest, a little bit of humour thrown in occasionally. So it had a good mix of everything, and it worked well.
Yeah, as Sue and Scott leave, the inspector takes the mute's wax figurehead and says, once this guy gets out of Sing Sing,
Yeah, wait, when he gets out, this head would have grown a long beard. Yeah,
meaning he's going to be in there for a
long
time.
time.
I'm not sure about the other guy, obviously.
Well, I don't know.
He gave his statement, meaning he may get
no, he wouldn't get a lighter sentence.
a lighter sentence.
No, he was part of it.
Nah, I suppose not.
But he might have got a lot. Because if he hadn't, if Professor Jared was doing the killings, and Leon
Was just an accomplice.
was an accomplice, maybe, and like just stealing the bodies.
Then again,
stuff,
the mute guy,
yeah.
he would have been. He
was
going
attempted. He tried to kill the other guy, so he would have got a stiffer sentence, maybe. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a balance. Yeah, the head guy, if Professor Jared stayed alive, he would have gone for a probably life sentence or execution if they had it back in those days. Leon might have got off for slightly reduced sentence. They couldn't prove he killed him by just abducted some dead bodies. But the other guy, Igor, he tried to kill somebody, so attempted murder. That would not help him.
Yeah. So anyway, this is Warner Brothers' first 3D movie, and according to the director, Andrew, he was blind in one eye and hence could not see the effects.
Yeah, so he treated it like an ordinary movie, and they put the 3D effects in, and he said, "Okay, it looks okay to me." When he's looking at the rushes, and people say, "This is great." He said, "What are you looking at?" Because he couldn't see the 3D effect, and they said they had to tell him what they were seeing.
Yeah, he could have seen a green or a blue. I don't know what's like.
When you do 3D, remember back in those days, you had two colours. You had a bluey or red and blue, or all red and green, and you had these tinted glasses you put on, and they'd overlap somehow and give you a
three-dimensional
or three-dimensional, a bit of a film depth, whatever, and that would create the 3D effect. Now the point remains is he couldn't see it, so he was relying on what the people were telling him, so he concentrated on making a good movie, and the 3D effects were just an add-on for him. He couldn't appreciate them, but were put in there. So he concentrated on just making a good movie and didn't rely on the 3D effects to try and make it a movie.
Yeah, anyway, this movie was reported Warner Brothers' biggest successes since Life with Father, which was released in 1947. I don't know much about that movie.
Well, actually, here's something interesting. I think I was talking to you a couple of months ago. Warner Brothers, they said I don't think they were very cashed up all the time. They had to watch the pennies all the time. By the time the late 60s were coming, that was about 10 years after this, or after 10 years, they were really strapped for cash, and they actually bankrolled, just to a small degree, the Woodstock documentary they did, which went to the picture shows. And they went there and they solicited money and they got a few $100,000 to help make the musical documentary, which became the Woodstock movie, or the Before the Band's On, and that saved them because that movie became very popular. The documentary thingy went to all the art houses, went to DVD and everything. They made a lot of money, and that floated them a bit on cash wise.
Yes.
So that must have been a bit of a skinny budget.
So what are the reviews about this movie?
Mixed reviews. Some of the guys couldn't appreciate the fact that the 3D was part of it. Some thought, they expected a bit more out of the movie. Some said it was a great movie. Some said it was just a remake of the thing done back in the 30s. There's a lot of mixed reviews, but I keep saying, to hell with the reviewers, the box office, the people who actually go to the film are the ones who review it. They've cost $1 million to make, and they made $24 million. To me, that says it's a damn fine movie. To hell with what reviewers say, because some of these reviewers, I don't like that sort of movie, so I'm going to rubbish it. And they were doing it back then, and they're still doing it. And I'm sorry, I don't like reviewers a lot, because they're ready to bag everybody. If it doesn't come into what they believe is the way they want to see it in their little utopian world, their problem is they can't see outside the bloody square. I'm sorry. That's rude, isn't it? But anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, yeah. But anyway, look, irrespective, this movie was a sort of a remake of the earlier 1933 movie.
However, slight script
they
changes.
did change the script a little bit, and I think I've watched both movies and I enjoy both movies.
Me too.
But in the first movie, the older movie, back in 33, they had a newspaper lady reporter involved running around trying to solve the mystery.
Yeah,
and
she was
whatever.
like a tomboy in this, in that movie.
That's a news hound. Yeah.
I know.
And she was running around trying to, and so they had her part, the newspaper people, taken out. And I think the detective guys were beefed up a little bit into it. But it was still based on the same story. But they were doing, I think, a two-colour, Technicolor sort of colour back in 33. So the colour was a totally different sort of concept. And it wasn't as striking as the later version, which was done in the 50s.
Yeah,
But it's
it
still
had
a good
more.
movie.
It had more. A little bit too much yellow.
Well, that was the colour. Unfortunately, that's the colours came out. Maybe the dye's gone a little bit over the years too. But the point remains, that it has the system changed. The early colour wasn't necessarily true colour. It was dyed somehow or other, in the process, whatever. But it was still a good movie. And actually, you made a comment about the sets in the first movie were a bit more surrealistic.
Yeah, surrealistic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just, the layout of the the scene where they're inside the wax basement.
Yeah, just different angles and different shapes and whatever, and it made it a little bit more not surrealistic. It's surrealistic, and that has to be the best word for it. A non-real sort of weirdo. Yeah, a bit like some of the early Dracula and early Frankenstein movies. Those big sound stages that had these buildings, and they just didn't look right. They just there's no ceilings almost, and they wouldn't have had that. But
no, I mean,
and weird angles in the buildings and stuff, and flying buttons going through the room and stuff. It just didn't look really good.
Yeah, it's
it
just,
looked great, but
it's
real.
just four walls, or maybe not four walls, just 4 walls and just a bit of a mini shot close-ups of it, or the
But
of the
get back to
figures.
surrealism and stuff. Remember we talked about the Cabin Dr. Caligari, who we might be reviewing later. That's an old silent movie. Now that was a real experiment in surrealism. Everything is weird looking in it. I mean, they did have a lot of cardboard and wooden sort of scenery. It was half stage. Well, it was mainly stagey, but it looks surrealistic, and all the angles and the doorways were triangular and different things, and everything was weird. And we might review that in the next couple of months. It's a really, really good movie. If you can get a good copy of it and you don't mind reading a few subtitles, it's a damn fine movie. And
I often think silent movies that can be really exciting when you look at it.
See, people sit there. English-speaking people will sit down and watch a European movie with subtitles. So what's the difference? So why watch a silent movie with subtitles?
Yes. So do you want to review this movie ourselves now?
Yep, 10.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 too.
No, I am biased on this one. I am a Vincent Price fan. And I don't know if Roger Corman wasn't involved in this one, obviously. But anything with Vincent Price in it, when it goes back to Victorian or Return of the Century, stuff like that, somehow his presence on the film, his dramatisation of the characters, just brings it to life. And you get good money, good director, good producer.
I think it's always interesting that they would often.
It's great.
I often think it's interesting when they would hire either a European director or European writer.
Well, sometimes they do
sometimes
it.
because to make it look more realistic.
Well, we were talking about the Phantom of the Opera the other day, weren't we?
We did.
And that was a French novel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And when they released it in English with probably dubbed or subtitles, it made more money in France than anywhere else in the world. Interesting, isn't it?
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a funny old world, isn't it?
I think so. Anyway, I ought to one day read the actual Waxworks book one day if I can find book one.
Well, actually being an old book, it might be hard to get, but yeah, it might be digital. You might be able to download a copy of it. Yeah.
Also, guys, before we finish this off, I thought I should bring up them doing a documentary this year about the lockdown.
It's actually called The Lockdown, isn't it?
Yes. And it's about filmmakers and actors who who were thriving during the COVID virus.
Well, yeah, what they did, what they couldn't do, what they did instead. How they filled the time over the past 12 months, which is interesting. So some could do things, some lost money, some had to walk out of projects.
Some of them had to postpone film projects here and there.
But hopefully the documentary comes up. Well, we're getting a few contributors now, are we? Or
we're getting a few people on board, and I'm kind of happy that they're taking interest in this.
So it could be a short documentary or a almost feature length, depending on how many contributors they get.
Yeah. So if you're a filmmaker or an actor out there, feel free to give me an email or buzz me, and I'll be sure to to give you all the details.
It's a video documentary, and you just have to supply your own video footage. And there's a non-profit thing as well. We're only doing it to help advertise or show what these people went through and give them a bit of a media play.
In hopes of the next generation of filmmakers, like student filmmakers, they may want to know what they
how we survived.
How we coped during major disasters.
Especially the little guys. I mean, the big studios, they just turn around and I just dump a few people, do some stuff, some low key stuff, whatever. They can still keep going. But the small guy doesn't have a lot of money. It's really hard.
Yeah, hopefully, if you guys have a story to tell, let me know, okay?
Yeah, but Sarah's website and Facebook pages and stuff, so contact us.
Feel free to buzz me if you can.
Exactly.
Alright, this is about it for us tonight, so I hope you guys enjoyed this latest podcast.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
I know you would.
I like Vinny.
This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying, I hope to see you guys around.
See you around like a soul. Bye.